A man dies on a wooden cross. His body goes still. His followers scatter in fear. But what happened in the hours after his death is where history becomes uncomfortable. Because something strange is written between the lines of ancient accounts. Something most people never notice. Darkness covered the land in the middle of the day. The ground shook, and graves were said to have opened. But here's the question no one can easily answer. Why would the death of one man cause the world to react like it was ending? And more importantly, what really happened after Jesus died that changed everything forever? Jerusalem, around 30-33 AD. The city is loud, chaotic, controlled by empire fear. And then everything stops. Jesus of Nazareth has been crucified. Roman soldiers think it's over. The crowd thinks it's finished. Even his closest followers are hiding in fear. But something feels wrong. The sky turns dark in daylight, and as if creation itself is holding its breath. And in that silence, something begins. Not noise, not celebration, but confusion, fear, and unanswered questions. Because this death doesn't feel normal. And this is where the mystery begins. But what no one realizes yet is that the real story starts after the cross. As Jesus is taken down from the cross, his body is placed in a tomb sealed with stone. Roman guards are assigned. Nothing is supposed to happen. But according to ancient accounts, the impossible begins almost immediately. A violent earthquake. The ground splits. The temple curtain is said to tear in two, and fear spreads among witnesses. But here's where things get strange, because the people who saw it don't agree on what it meant. Some say it was grief. Some say it was judgment. Some say it was something far beyond nature. And while the world outside continues normally, inside Jerusalem, something is shifting. Quiet conversations begin. Rumors spread. Whispers grow louder. Something didn't end at the cross. But no one can prove it, yet. 3 days later, a group of women approaches the tomb early morning, expecting grief, expecting a sealed grave, expecting finality. But what they find breaks logic. The stone is rolled away, the tomb is empty, and everything changes. Because now the question is no longer about death, it's about disappearance. Roman authority is shaken. Religious leaders panic. Followers are confused, terrified, hopeful, all at once. And then the claims begin. He is not here. The tomb is empty. We saw him alive. But here's where the mystery deepens even more. Because eyewitness accounts don't fully align. Descriptions vary. Details differ. And yet, the movement begins to grow instead of collapse. How does a defeated group suddenly become unstoppable? Something is happening that history struggles to explain cleanly, and it is here. The story splits into belief and mystery. In most historical pattern, when a leader dies, the movement dies with him. But here, something unusual happens. The followers of Jesus don't disappear. They spread, fast. Despite fear, despite persecution, despite death threats, they begin saying something radical. Death was not the end. And this idea becomes unstoppable. Within years, a movement spreads across empires, not because of armies, not because of power, but because of testimony. People claim they experienced something real, something that changed fear into courage, something that made them walk willingly into danger. And this is where historians, skeptics, and believers collide. Because there are only a few possible explanations: mass deception, collective belief, misinterpretation of events, or something that defies normal explanation. But every explanation still leaves one question unanswered. Why did fear suddenly turn into unbreakable conviction? Something happened in those days after the death, not just physically, but psychologically, historically, spiritually, a breaking point, where despair should have won, but instead, hope became stronger than fear. And whether someone believes in miracle, myth, or mystery, one fact remains: the world after that moment was never the same again. Empires changed, calendars shifted, civilizations evolved around the impact of one execution, and it all traces back to one question that still divides people today. What really happened after Jesus died? Because the silence of the tomb is where the loudest story in history began. History tries to explain it, faith tries to define it, science tries to analyze it, but none can fully close the gap between what is written and what is understood. And maybe that's why this story still echoes after 2,000 years. Because it doesn't end with certainty. It ends with a question. If you were there, standing in that empty tomb, would you have believed it? Or would you have walked away, still searching for an answer that history has never fully agreed on?